Let me kick it off here. So this is a seminar on the practice problems, and one of the key initiatives of the M&SOM journals department called Practice Platform, initiated by Georgia Perakis, a faculty from the Sloan Business School at MIT, who's also on the call. The goal of this initiative is to bring the voice of the practitioner closer to the OM scholar community and facilitate discussions between them. And I have the pleasure of working with Anant Raman and Anant Raman from Harvard Business School and Jeremy from London School of Business on this. And I myself, Pavitra Harsha from IBM Research. And today we have Flipkart. And for those of you who know, Flipkart is the largest e-commerce player in India that delivers more than 3.5 million packages. And we'll hear more from the speakers. From Flipkart, we have Chandrasekhar, who is also, we can refer to him as Chandru, who is an analytics professional with over 15 plus years of experience, who's worked in the past at Oracle and Dell. He's a senior analytics manager at Flipkart and leads the analytics team for large supply chains. He's also an Edelman Informs laureate of 2013. Along with Chandru, we have Shailendra Kumar, who's also a supply chain analytics professional at Flipkart with more than 15 years of experience. Chandru has worked at Sony and other companies in the past. Along with Chandru and Shailendra, we have Debjit Roy, who is the Institute Chair Professor of Operations and Decision Sciences area at IIM Ahmedabad, India. And he holds a PhD in operations research from University of Wisconsin-Madison. Together, I think as a team, they have been working on very interesting e-commerce problems that is relevant to the Indian sector. And they also won the IEEE award for some of their joint work in the past. So today we welcome them and looking forward to hearing about different problems and the last mile optimization, especially with a focus on workforce efficiency. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pavitra, for this warm introduction. Chandrasekhar, you may share your slide as well. So first of all, we would like to thank the whole M&SOM editorial team, Professor Georgia Perakis, who is the AIC, and the Practice Platform team, editorial team, Dr. Anant Raman, Dr. Jeremy, and Dr. Pavitra for helping us craft this presentation and this webinar. They provided us quite a very detailed template, and we hope that this seminar will be of value for all of you. Just to give a bit of background about what we are going to talk about today. So if you all are coming from a different country, not from India, then probably you have definitely heard of even Flipkart, because Flipkart is a market leader in e-commerce in India. And as for any e-commerce, you can imagine that the last mile delivery is one of the most crucial piece. And today, this piece is becoming even more kind of exciting because we are sourcing a lot of workforce from the gig economy, right? So today we will be talking about several fascinating work that is potentially possible with the Indian context in mind, and particularly talking about the Indian share of challenges in e-commerce and how we need to relook into the whole e-commerce last mile delivery problem. If you go to the next slide, Chandrasekhar. So the first thing what we're going to do today is talk about the scale of the Flipkart business and how they have grown over time in terms of their not only the packages, but also their SKUs, the whole large scale of assortments. And as I mentioned, especially from a emerging economy India class problem, the product delivery is one of the biggest challenge. And the challenges stem from variety of sources. So our team will talk about some of those sources of challenges, particularly that arises because of the unorganized urban delivery, but also about the kind of challenges with the labor workforce and so on and so forth. What is exciting in India is that today we are able to manage this supply demand mismatch with the help of the gig workforce, which is getting even more popular with the platforms that has evolved in the India and rest of the world as well. But while the gig workforce brings a lot of flexibility, it also holds its own share of challenges. And the purpose of this seminar is also to drive why we need to relook into the whole e-commerce problem with these gig workforce in mind. Specifically, we have crafted three potential research problems that my friends from Flipkart will walk you through. One will be on the interpreting customer addresses, which is extremely harder at times, given the kind of scale of India we are talking about. And then we'll talk about the how do you optimize the last mile network, particularly from the, again, the delivery workforce perspective. And finally, in India, unlike other countries, a significant proportion of the e-commerce happens based on cash on delivery, which means the payment happens once the package is delivered to the customer, which also means that the customer dependencies become even stronger, right? So how do you incorporate customer dependencies while you're allocating shipments to the delivery workforce? We'll hopefully be able to talk about the basic context in the first half an hour or so, and then we'll open up the floor for Q&A. However, if you have any questions while we are navigating through the content, please write in the chat window, and we will also moderate that. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the gig economy is big in every country. In India also, it is quite big. And particularly if you talk about the gig worker pool, and I know that this kind of volumes are kind of expanding because it gives a huge flexibility to the workforce. Many of them could be working in a restaurant in the morning, and they might be delivering packages in the afternoon. So this kind of workforce is kind of growing. While we do not have very official estimate, but we have some numbers from the policy think tank of India, which is the Niti Aayog. They suggest that currently there are about 7.7 million gig workers who are blazed out of our platforms. And this number can rise to about 23 million by 2030. So there is a huge growth that the sector is kind of seeing. What is interesting is that when I kind of digged a bit deeper here, this kind of workforce was never classified in our labor standards, which is kind of interesting because now, if you think about these significant 7.7 million people who are working in this particular economy, they don't have sufficient health benefits, they do not have any kind of job security, and they also do not have any collective voice as such. So in general, their access to stable income, their access to credits network, and potentially their contract terms are also quite fluid. And further, there could be skills mismatch issue. For example, they may not be fully skilled in any task. As I said, morning they could be working in a restaurant, afternoon they might be working in a for e-commerce package delivery. In the evening, they might be doing some home delivery of restaurant meals. So they could be doing variety of tasks. So matching the right skills could also be a big challenge. But as this figure says, you can see that retail is one of the biggest employers of gig workforce in India. About, yeah, it's significant chunk, about 47% are about 26.6 lakh, which is coming from the retail segment. That is a huge number. So today's talk is going to be centered about how do we account for the needs of the gig economy while we are designing the policies for e-commerce last mile deliveries. Yeah. So with that, I will give the floor to my friends from Flipkart. We have Chandrasekhar, who is the senior manager at supply chain analytics. He has done a lot of fascinating work in the past, including we have done some fascinating work in box sizing problems for e-commerce, and also looking at some of the quick commerce elements, and also talking a lot about the warehouse automation and stuff. Likewise, Shailendra also is our partner in Flipkart. He's also a senior manager in supply chain analytics. So first, I'll request Chandrasekhar to provide a context of this whole e-commerce in India and kind of lead to the point where we will be able to talk about the 3 problem statements. And I will request Shailendra to pick up those research statements at the end. So over to you, Chandru.
Thanks a lot, Professor Debjit, for giving that wonderful introduction to the topic and setting the context about what is gig economy all about, why is this important in an Indian context. So to make all of you think, a typical developing economy like India, what do you think is the e-commerce penetration in India? To give you a hint, China is the country with the highest e-commerce penetration at 47%. Just something to think about. India currently stands at 8.5% e-commerce penetration, which means there is tremendous growth potential. Not many people have access to internet. Even after getting internet access, with rapid growth in adoption of 3G, 4G and 5G technology in the telecom space, many people are still hesitant to go out there into the e-commerce market and make their purchases, because there are a lot of challenges in terms of, can I trust this platform? What do I do if I get a damaged item? What do I do if I get a fake product instead of a trusted brand? There are so many questions, and hence e-commerce still hasn't grown to its potential, and there is tremendous growth potential. And with that context, let me give you an introduction to what is Flipkart. As called out by Professor Debjit and Pavitra in the beginning, Flipkart is the #1 e-commerce company in India. We started in 2007 by selling books, and then we rapidly expanded into other categories like fashion, electronics, home, grocery, and we recently ventured into the travel and health space as well. What we have done over the years is not just to gain our market share by beating the competition, but also innovated across multiple areas and expanded the market as well. As I was talking about the e-commerce penetration, it was much lower earlier, and through the efforts of Flipkart and the other e-commerce players in the market, through several innovations, this e-commerce share has been growing and the market itself has been expanding. Another interesting statistic is that 60% of new e-commerce customers come from tier 2 and rural areas, tier 2 cities and rural areas, which means that with a vast country like India, the retail, organized retail or e-commerce market cannot just be restricted to the big cities. New customers are being acquired in the tier 2 and rural areas, and hence whatever innovations we do, be it on the demand side in terms of acquiring customers or on fulfilling that demand on the supply chain side, has to be very, very thoughtful, has to be very, very robust with the application of science. And that's where this presentation or webinar can be helpful in triggering some of those ideas in terms of what can be the future research. Let's move on to the next slide. Before that, a quick introduction to Flipkart through numbers. I'm sure you would have already seen this. We have 450 plus million registered users who browse 150 million products across 80 plus categories, with generating 2 billion monthly visits, resulting in more than 100 million shipments every month. So that's the scale of Flipkart. We serve across the length and breadth of the country, close to 19,000 pin codes. Moving on to the next slide. So to serve such a vast geography, we do have to set up multiple supply chain capabilities. We have developed multiple supply chain capabilities, and we operate various kinds of facilities. Once an order is placed, the first step in the fulfillment happens from either one of our own fulfillment centers or one of the marketplace sellers. This process typically involves picking, packing, and dispatching the shipments. From here, it moves on to something known as our mother hub, which are also the sortation centers. In these sortation centers, the shipments are sorted and channeled towards their eventual destination. Through a complex route which involves multiple hops, the logistics network ensures that the shipment reaches the destination mother hub. At the destination mother hub, there is one final round of logistics or line haul which takes it to the delivery hub. This delivery hub is known as last mile. At the last mile, we have our delivery executives whom we call as wishmasters. We call them wishmasters because they play a critical role in fulfilling the wishes of the millions of Indians who place orders through Flipkart every day. These wishmasters choose any mode of their transport and finally deliver the shipment to the customers. We can also choose to fulfill the shipment delivery through any third-party logistics provider. And to add to it, the same flow of shipments can happen in the reverse direction through the return supply chain. As you can clearly see, the first part of where we pick up shipments from the marketplace sellers is known as first mile. The logistics part of it is known as middle mile, and the delivery hub is known as the last mile. Now, to point your attention to some of the key end-to-end challenges that we face in a supply chain this huge. There are multiple variabilities across the different legs of the supply chain. There could be variations in the processing time at one particular facility or the travel time between two different source and destination combinations. This could be caused by any external disturbances. So it's very important to understand how do we balance out these variabilities and provide the right delivery promise to the customers. Similarly, when you have shipments traveling across so many hops, how do we ensure that the damages and losses to the shipments in the journey are minimized? Because any damage or loss can inconvenience the customers and lead to a reshipping cost for us as a platform. The third and most important is how do we ensure that we come up with an optimal sortation construct, which means how do we know what are the number of hops, which source to which destination should we send, how many destinations should we sort at a particular facility. All of this is very complex and difficult to optimize in the logistic network part of it. And lastly, since we operate so many facilities, run so many vehicles, and hire such a huge number of manpower, it is very important to calculate and keep a control on the utilization and productivity of these assets. Unless we do that, we cannot be running an efficient supply chain. We'll move to the next slide now. Now, we know that e-commerce has a way of growing in every country. I want to now focus your attention on some peculiarities in the Indian e-commerce market. As I've called out in the beginning, as e-commerce penetration has grown, customers have started becoming more and more demanding. They expect innovations and fast support, and their expectations in terms of speed of delivery, doorstep experience, customer support, returns, and value for money have grown several times over the last several years. While customers were okay with getting a variety of products to browse from and getting a shipment in 3 to 5 days, nowadays customers are expecting same day or next day delivery. Similarly, customers were okay with multiple modes of delivery, but these days they want convenience and they want the delivery to happen at their doorstep at a time that is convenient to them. They expect 24/7 customer support, dealing with queries in terms of where is their shipment, how long will it take for it to reach them. When will somebody pick up their return request? Why did their return request get cancelled? So on and so forth. There are so many queries that they expect immediate attention to. And lastly, there are so many discount seeking people who always look for the best value for their money. And Flipkart has innovated over the last several years to provide them discounts over the product price. We run multiple sales where we offer huge discounts. We give them new constructs like product exchange. There are bank discounts. All of these put together give them a huge value. And all of these innovations have helped us unlock a lot of demand over the years. But on the other hand, in parallel comes the challenge of managing the supply and fulfilling this demand in the last mile. As you can see, in India, we have a predominant number of shipments which are paid through something known as cash of delivery, cash for delivery, which means that in the last mile, at the time of delivery, customer has to make a payment in cash. They don't have to pay anything till the point of delivery. This is a big challenge for our wishmasters because they have to ensure that the customer has the cash ready with them at the time of delivery. It can also be a point of sale device that has to be carried so that customer has an option to pay through a card. Also, because of the customer convenience, our wishmasters have to plan their route in such a way that they visit the customer when the customer is available to take the delivery. And as called out by Professor Debjit, there are so many instances where the addresses are not mapped correctly or not mentioned correctly while placing the order, which leads to the wishmaster spending a lot of time on the ground calling the customers to find out what is the right location, and which leads to loss of productivity for them. Similarly, to prevent any issues with respect to damage or loss reconciliation, we have come up with innovations like open box delivery, wherein at the time of delivery, the wishmaster opens the shipment and ensures that the customer acknowledges that the product is delivered in a good condition. And the last and most important aspect is to manage the demand variability, both in spatial terms and temporal terms. Since e-commerce is spread out across the length and breadth of country, there will be several pockets where you cannot expect good amount of demand to come every day or in each and every pin code, which leads us to manage the balance between demand and supply and ensuring that the right manpower in the last mile is available to fulfill the demand when there is demand. And hence, this is very important to ensure the stability and reliability of manpower in the last mile. We'll move on to the next slide now. And when we talk about workforce in the last mile, I want to make a connection to what Professor Debjit spoke about, the gig economy. Gig economy essentially offers flexibility and opportunity to earn higher wages to the workforce. Flipkart also employs more than 100,000 workforce across all of our assets across all the states in the country. While most of our workforce are not part of the gig model, they get regular salaries. But by looking at the growth of gig economy, it is possible that these alternative gig opportunities may lead to absenteeism and attrition in Flipkart's workforce as well. And to prevent this from happening and ensuring stability and reliability in our supply availability, we need to ensure that each and every one of our workforce across assets, including wishmasters in the last mile, have a stable earning potential. And some of our, as an example, a typical supervisor in a last mile hub may have to grapple with questions like, are all my wishmasters engaged enough? Do they feel motivated to work every day? Do I know if all my wishmasters will be productive throughout the day? Do I know if my wishmaster will show up today for the deliveries? How do I provide better earnings to my wishmasters compared to any other gig opportunities that may be available to them? These are some typical questions, not just in the last mile, but across all of the assets that we have to deal with. And towards the end, I want all of you to think about the human element of the supply chain. When we think of supply chain, when we read of supply chain, we usually look at flow of goods and money and data. But there are so many people involved who are running the supply chain. And in the case of Flipkart and many other retail and e-commerce companies of India, there are thousands and millions of these workers who are playing a very, very significant role in running the supply chains and running the business profitably. In many cases, these workers have about a median age of 27 years, and they are the sole breadwinners of their family. And they always keep thinking about these key performance metrics. What is the attempt conversion rate? Which means how many attempts does it take them to deliver a shipment successfully? As we talked about, there are many factors which can reduce this attempt conversion and thus hit their productivity. There is the aspect of reliability, which means that no matter how complex the situation is on the ground, are you as a wishmaster able to make genuine attempts to deliver the shipment and give the right attempt status updates on every delivery attempt? This is to ensure that we meet the promise that we have given to the customer. Next is on productivity, which is essentially how many shipments were you able to deliver in a day. And all these three combined are used to calculate the total wages that are earned by a wishmaster. And in a typical last mile kind of a scenario or any kind of shipment delivery scenario, most companies would be offering a variable payment. And in Flipkart also, we have a variable payment, which means that you get paid as a wishmaster, you get paid by the number of shipments you have delivered. And this wage rate is calculated to incorporate fairly all the variabilities that can happen in that particular geography. It's possible that in the city that you are operating, or the route that you take, or the customer demography in that particular city might lead to a naturally higher or lower attempt conversion. And hence these wage rates are also accordingly calculated to be fair to the wishmasters. Despite all of this science going behind the wage rate calculation, still there are a lot of variabilities, and still wishmasters would like to maximize their wages. Hence, it is very, very important to see how can we apply more and more data science and analytics to improve the earning potential of a wishmaster. And this is even more important because for Flipkart and for many companies, the last mile is the only leg of the order fulfillment journey where customer has a real face-to-face interaction with the company. Otherwise, in an online scenario, you place an order and you get it directly. The only place where a company interacts with the customer face-to-face is the last mile. So as called out, we'll now look into these three problems: interpreting customer address text accurately, optimizing the network topology, or where should we place our last mile hubs, and incorporating all the variabilities and dependencies to figure out the shipment allocation decision. How many shipments should be allocated to whom? On that note, now I would like to invite my colleague, Mr. Shailendra, to take forward from here and explain to you in more detail about each of these problem statements. Over to you, Shailendra.
Yeah, thanks, Chandrasekhar, for setting the right context. So the first problem statement I will talk about is on the customer addresses, right? So addresses in India are highly unstructured and poorly organized, with different users have their own understanding of their addresses. Approximately in India, 10 to 20% of these addresses are poor in quality. Because of this poor or unorganized addresses, navigation time on the ground increases which results in lower earning potential for our wishmaster. Let us understand this problem in two ways. First, customer lacks understanding of their home addresses. If you look at eyeball this address, clueless address, it says, come to the street beside Naj Hotel, behind grocery store, and call me. It's very difficult for our wishmaster on the ground to reach out to this customer to deliver the shipment. Moving next, pin code, wrong pin code. So there is an apartment name called Pavli Sarovar Apartment, Nalur Halli, Whitefield, Bangalore. Although this address looks structured in nature, but that pin code which is mapped to this address is wrongly marked. Moving next, Ramesh Kumar, Mumbai. So this is an incomplete address, right? There can be n numbers of Ramesh Kumar living in Mumbai. Now moving to point number 2, even though customer understand their home address, it's still unstructured, not complete. One of the challenges in India, mainly in tier 2 and tier 3 cities and town where population ranges from 100K to 500K, that house number does not exist. So how to reach to those addresses, right? So it takes lots of time on the ground for our wishmaster to reach to those addresses. Now moving to the last point. This is the end mile problem of our last mile. In metro city or a million plus city, we have lots of society where multi-story buildings are there, right? So currently we provide navigation support to our wishmaster to the main gate. What about the moment they enter the society? How they will reach out to those different stories within those buildings, right? So what are the key challenges which our wishmaster faces due to this poor address quality? Because of the wrong pin code mapping, right, shipment has to be attached to one delivery hub which serves those customer serviceability but has been assigned or allocated to some other delivery hub. Now again from that delivery hub, it has to come back to the concern or the key hub from where it has to be delivered, and that consumes time. When customer places an order, right, we give them a promise date that we are going to deliver within this date. So because of these poor addresses, sometimes we misses the timeline which we have given to the customer, and that deteriorates our customer experience. Also due to these poor addresses, right, our wishmaster has to travel, which increases their navigation time. And the biggest problem which we have observed is in the anxiety or the behavioral issues in our wishmaster, the fear of losing money, the fear of earning less, right? So they start marking wrong until reason for those delivered attempts.
Yeah, so Shailendra, a quick question here by Kiran. He was asking if the customers can also share the coordinates, GPS coordinates via messaging apps like WhatsApp and all. Will that help?
So currently we have started those initiatives, but trust me, adoption is very less, very, very less adoption in India we have observed. Okay. So with the backdrop of the new model coming and with the uncertain address, here's some of the potential problem statement where computer scientists and operation management researchers can work is mainly on how we can predict lat long accurately for the customer addresses, right? The text which they have given, because this is required. When you are sending wishmaster to deliver 50, 60, 70 shipment, you have to give some sort of structural support, navigation support, so that they can reach to the right customer door. Secondly, how do we manage the right mix of shipment, right? Knowing that the addresses varies across the geography. If we are giving shipments where the address quality is good, right? Our wishmaster can deliver 60, 70 shipments in a day. But where the address quality is poor, right? Hardly 30, 35 shipments they can deliver, and that will impact the earning potential. And also, with this kind of uncertainty in the address, how do we manage our manpower capacity? How many manpower do we need across the geography in the metros, right? Because we need to plan the manpower because manpower planning is important to meet the customer expectation. With this, I will move to the next problem statement. Yeah. So as Chandru rightly said, right, last mile is the only leg of supply chain where we directly interact with our customer, either for delivering the forward shipment or picking the reverse shipment. It is the only leg of supply chain where we have deployed n numbers of manpower. So it's manpower heavy, and also it has huge asset spread across India. With this increasing e-commerce adoption, it is imperative that the design of the serviceability has to be optimal to improve our experience, customer experience, and also minimize the operational costs. So what are the things, or what kind of solves has been done so far in the terms of last mile serviceability, right? So mainly lots of optimization, mainly linear programming has been used to design the serviceability of the hub, where either they have used the pin code mapping or geographical landmark to draw the boundaries. But one of the challenges with the pin code mapping is that pin code vary in shape and size, and also the demand varies, right? One challenge with the existing network is that customer demand location has never been considered while drawing the boundary of the serviceability. Bringing last mile serviceability closer to the customer will improve our speed, and that will delight the customer. So what are the key challenges which our Wishmaster faces due to this existing supply chain network in the last mile? Sometimes they have to travel long, right? If you look at these two visuals, right, in the left-hand side, hub is located in one corner where the demand is more towards the other side of that geography. So they have to travel, more time is consumed, their earning potential deteriorates. Even the stem distance is nothing but the first shipment which master deliver from the delivery hub. Even the inter-shipment distance, the distance between two customer doorstep, varies across geography. It varies from 100 meters to even 3, 4, 5 kilometers. Apart from that, also because of the different dimension of this pin code, customer demands varies, which impacts our route planning for our Wishmaster. So some of the potential problem statement where our researcher could work. Chandru, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. How do we design our last mile serviceability where we can bring the customer demand and the Wishmaster together so that we can improve in terms of customer experience and earning potential as well? Knowing the uncertainty because of the customer varying preferences and the demand, how we can redesign the network so that we can improve the overall supply chain efficiency. Yeah, Chandru, we can move to the next and the final problem statement. So in an era of e-commerce and digital transformation, all the organization has put lots of effort on the customer. Solving customer experience holds true for majority of the organization. But one of the challenge which every organization is combating is on the attrition of semi-skilled workforce. Attrition rate among the semi-skilled forces across industry, including e-commerce, ranges from 20-25%. Hiring new workforce, educating them on the last mile process is a tedious job, and it consumes lots of time as well. Irrespective of skills, right? Career stability holds true for everybody, but the big challenge for the semi-skilled workforce remains on the earning potential and the career stability. On top of that, right, customer dependent regions, customer preferences, and on in spot gratification like same day delivery, next day delivery, preferred slot, value added services, right? Evening delivery, morning delivery, weekday versus weekend delivery consumes lots of time. Even when the wishmasters reach out to customers, right? There are n numbers of challenges. Sometimes customers are not available. Then cash on delivery, for those cash is not available, then again they have to wait there. Sometime internet connection exists, right? So how we can incorporate all these points, right? In terms of address quality, the existing network, which has its own nuances, and the customer region related dependency, so that we can come up with the right shipment allocation. Now, what happens? What are the questions which comes to our wishmaster because of these challenges with the existing network from the customer side, with the supply chain inefficient network? How much I will earn today? How many shipment? They are not sure about what is the earning tomorrow, right? Again, across the geography, questions like, can I prefer location so that I can fulfill all my needs? Why people from tier 2, tier 3 city will come to metro, where the earning itself in this sector is not that great, right? Also, we have observed that apart from doing the e-commerce, right, in the morning and the afternoon, post-afternoon, can I explore part-time job with the other food delivery partners so that I can work during lunch and dinner as well? So here the problem statement is how we can maximize wishmaster earning potential so that we can retain with us, with the work, with high degree of reliability. So some of the potential research question where operation management researcher can work is, what is the optimal shipment to wishmaster allocation logic given the variability? In fact, variability kills supply chain. If you look at, variability lies everywhere, with us, with our network, with the customer, right? So how we can come up with the right allocation logic? Secondly, knowing the customer demand and their preferences, how we can come up with the balance in terms of workload and earning potential, so that at least we can improve their overall earning potentials. Yeah, with this, we can move to the question and answer session.
Thank you very much. It was amazing to hear all the fascinating challenges in the Indian domain. I think we have one question from Devdatta. Go ahead, unmute and ask, please.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, great talk. So I have a question, and this is from the first-hand experience of working for a retailer. I was working for Staples 2 years back. So this COVID had changed the last mile demographics a lot. For example, during lockdown, people from tier 1 cities like Bangalore, Bombay moved to their hometowns, and they were still on online ordering, and more so during the COVID lockdown. And I see that this is a problem that comes back again and again, not just due to COVID, because in a market like India, where even in the US, during festivals or like holidays like say Durga Puja, Holi, Diwali, people will move to their hometowns out of the tier 1 cities to meet their parents and family friends, and they'll still make the online orders. So how does Flipkart manage that shift in last mile demographics on such a dynamic basis, even though you can find some maybe seasonal patterns and be kind of prepared for the change when there is a Holi, Diwali, Durga Puja coming, but it's still a big shift in operations based on where the bulk of the orders are going. So how do you guys kind of tackle that problem? And that is also connected to some of your problem statements that we discussed today.
Yeah, Chandra, you want to take us? Shall I go ahead?
Yeah. So you are absolutely correct, Devdatta, in saying that we refer heavily on seasonal patterns in a business as usual kind of a situation every year. But the instance of COVID that you called out was a completely unforeseen event wherein the mass migration of people from one city to other was completely unexpected, right? And that is where we had to be a lot more looking into the trends, browse patterns of people, how their search behaviors are, what does Google Trends say, what does similar web say. There are a lot of other portals and web intelligence which provides how has browsing pattern shifted, let's say across geographies, across cities. So we would know from the top of the funnel, that's how migration has impacted us, right? See, because our typically any big retail provider or e-commerce provider would try to forecast at the most granular level, which is the pin code in India, right? And slowly we would keep aggregating pin code level demand at various other granularities. And since it is difficult to get trends at pin code level, even if at a city level or a town level, we are able to know from the top of the funnel how many people have visited our app. For instance, Flipkart is in the top, it was the top most downloaded app, right, in the e-commerce section. So we have a lot of millions and billions of users who engage with our app. So we will know how many people are logging in from which IP location and from which city. So that those indicators would kind of tell us in a completely exceptional scenario like COVID. But otherwise, in a business as usual, as you rightly said, we rely a lot on category managers who try and get local intelligence of what demand patterns are shifting and what has history told us in terms of seasonalities. I hope that answered your question, Devdatta.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so you do kind of take care of the issue of migration on a periodic basis during festivals and kind of try to pre-plan your network for that.
Yes, we do. And I think most of you would be aware we are heading into the festive season now.
Right.
So all the e-commerce providers and even Flipkart is gearing up for the big billion day sale, right, where there is a huge change in network that happens across the first mile, middle mile, last mile, across the whole network. We pump in a lot of supply. We build our infrastructure, tech infrastructure, supply chain infrastructure to handle up to 10x times of demand. So that's the kind of rush we usually see in a festive season.
The one other question I had is, again, this is from just the knowledge of how delivery network looks like. Could you please go to the initial picture where you showed the line haul picture and all the sortation hubs? So right. So here you show that the line haul is connecting the destination mother hub and the delivery hub. But I'm just curious that what about the source mother hub and the destination mother hub? Are those like just are those like really physical entities located at some other locations away from the fulfillment center, or those are just some delivery hub numbers in your computer system?
No, these are physical, because sortation centers play a critical role. As I spoke about, we have to decide. So these play the role of consolidation first, where there are shipments coming from our own fulfillment centers and from the sellers. These are two different sources of shipments. We consolidate them and then we figure out which destination does it have to flow to. So there is a sortation, actual sortation activity. In many facilities, it is manual. In some facilities, it is highly automated, where we sort them into 100, 200 different destinations. So there's
Right.
a big setup. Yeah.
So this sortation center, is it like a different it is located at a different location altogether than the fulfillment center, or it's a division inside the fulfillment center that does the sortation?
We have both kind of models depending upon the availability of space. In many cases, it's a separate facility. In some cases, it's a co-located facility.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
There was a question here on the typical cost of last mile. I think Shailendra, you want to explain that a bit?
Yeah, so across the geography, it ranges, right? Mainly in terms of Indian rupees, it varies from 30 to 50, right? And also we have different delivery partners, right? Currently, Pan India, all the wishmasters are not captive. So we also give some shipment to the 3PL, as you can see in the screen, right? A third-party logistic, where our delivery cost, in fact, is more than 100 rupees, because they pick directly from the source mother hub. But yeah, overall 30 to 50 is what it ranges. And one more question was on, do we have that hub pickup facility? So we tried that, but it was not, we didn't got any traction from the customer. Hardly few customer reach out to need base on the urgency. Even we were planning that we will give some cost in terms of cost goodness that while placing the order. So that kind of ideas was conceptualized, but it we never worked properly on that piece. Yeah.
So I think in one of the slides I spoke about customer expectation being doorstep delivery, right? So that's where we did experiment with multiple modes. We did experiment with machine-based delivery where you enter a pin code and you get the shipment. Of course, these would mostly work in metros, but as called out by Shailendra, many of these were not very successful. It will probably take some more time for some of these to really mature. For instance, I know that in many of the developed economies, pickup is a favored option. It's not so yet in India. It might mature, and the mode of delivery may change in future.
There's a follow-up question here. What are some policies in Flipkart to keep the wishmasters engaged? And how do you ensure equity in wages? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so let me just quickly take that, and then Shailendra can add a lot more since he has the last mile context. So all of the challenges that I think Professor Debjit called out when talking about gig workforce, right? None of them exist for anybody who's employed by Flipkart, right? So in terms of access to, security, job security, they have a defined contract period, and within that contract period, nobody can remove them. Other than any gross violation of our policies. We do have a lot of health insurance provided to them. We give them extensive training in terms of communication, in terms of specific skill that is needed to perform the job to the best of their ability. We provide them a lot of incentive policies to earn beyond what is their monthly standard fixed monthly wage. In addition to that, we provide a lot of incentive mechanisms on a regular basis, and they have access to all the other typical benefits that any other on-roll employee would also have, right? So typically we do ensure that they grow. We also give them opportunities to get promoted and become on-roll. If they have the competency, they have shown good competencies. We keep running multiple education programs for them. In terms of equity of wages, as I called out, I had touched upon it briefly. It could be completely different. For instance, somebody who is working in a city like Bangalore, where he gets to deliver 50 shipments, versus somebody who is in a tier 2 city and probably gets to deliver only 30 shipments. It's unfair to have the same wage rate. Let's say, for instance, let's take 40 rupees as an example. I can't use 40 rupees at both the places. Maybe I'll give 45 in Bangalore because the cost of living is higher. Maybe I'll give 48 in the tier 2 city because by nature he cannot deliver more than X number of shipments because the demand density is like that. So while there is no one simple equation, there is a lot of thought process and policy thought that goes behind coming out and figuring out that wage rate, right? The on ground research happens by the finance team, by the HR team, and we talk to the wishmasters to figure out what should that wage rate should be. Shailendra, you can add based on your experience.
Yeah, so we have a program called Pathshala at Flipkart. So the moment we onboard our wishmaster, right? So there is a dedicated 3 weeks of program so that we can educate them on the last mile process, making them understand the importance of customers, right? Because end of the day, they are the only asset which directly interact with the customer, right? So we have the dedicated program. Also, some of the benefits which are provided in terms of health insurance, right? Recently, one of the initiative was that can we also align with the brands so that we can help them buy motorbike, right? So for their delivery. So some initiative are there for our business masters so that we can keep them engaged. one question which I was going through is what is the metrics which we measure to measure the welfare of the wishmaster, right? So I will get back on that. Currently, I don't remember exact metrics which is measured at the delivery hub. But yeah, definitely I will get back on that question.
So we do, I believe we do have constant surveys. So now we have multiple surveys that the HR team tries to have conversations, and we look at the results of those surveys in terms of employee satisfaction. And we also prioritize employee safety and security a lot more. So since Walmart is our parent company now, it comes from top down, and even otherwise, Flipkart has always been an employee-centric company. We focus a lot on their security, physical, mental, emotional security. We provide counseling and all of those kinds of benefits to the last mile as well. I already spoke about health insurance. Idea is they are secure and they are free of any worry of what will happen to them if there is nobody to take care of them. So those kind of policies are put in place in terms of measurement of other specific metrics, as Shailendra will come back, I think.
So Chandrasekhar, there's a follow-up question. Is that do the customers pay for delivery exclusively, or is the standard delivery cost that customers pay? It doesn't cover.
So again, yeah, let me answer that. So just like let's say Amazon Prime, most of you would be aware, Amazon Prime would give you free shipping for a certain set of selection. We do also have a similar program called Flipkart Plus. And if you subscribe to that Flipkart Plus, then you are given a free delivery or no shipping fee on a good amount of our selection. But for, let's say, a lot of the selection which is directly shipped by our marketplace sellers, they would still pay a delivery fee, which is as a part of the order transaction itself. They don't have to pay anything extra at the time of delivery. It's included in the order transaction.
Yeah, I think Jeremy has a nice kind of reflection question, which is, are you asking yourself some questions about the optimal contract incentive structure for the last mile delivery workers, like at Flipkart itself? Yeah.
Yes, I think that's what I was speaking about. I know for a fact that we may not have perfected it yet, but we continue to incrementally improve by looking at the on-the-ground situation, by getting feedback from the wishmasters, by doing focus group discussions with them. We try to understand. And whenever, let's say, somebody exits our company and goes to a competitor or goes to another gig opportunity, we reflect a lot by asking those questions. Okay, what led to dissatisfaction, or what caused you to quit Flipkart? And we try and incorporate some of those feedback into the not just the wage structure, but also our policies.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I know there are a lot more questions on the channel here. As I'm looking through, there is stuff on related to supply chain. Anant has a few more questions. So, but we just have another minute. Do you want to take a question on the supply chain? And then we can close it, and maybe you can respond to some of these questions in the transcript. And when we post the transcript, we can have your responses as well. Yeah. Or we could just, I think it's time now maybe. So we'll just end the thing. There's one question, maybe one last one on supply chain, right? We spoke about gig. How frequently do you redesign or your supply chain configuration?
So see the typical, so I was just giving you an example of the festive season, right? Festive season is a huge event for us. And we rejig the network at multiple places. We beef up more capacity in our facilities. We open up a few new facilities. We add more routes. We add more vehicles in the same route. We do this in a very big way, probably twice a year, you can say. But our regular network changes keep happening once a month. So every month we relook at our network based on whatever demand shift has happened, supply shift has happened, and we keep changing our network on a monthly frequency usually. I don't know if that answered the question or if you were expecting something more specific.
I think that answers it, unless Santosh had anything else in mind. Santosh Mahapatra. I think that I think that answers it, Chandru. Thank you very much. And it was a really fascinating presentation and to learn about all the challenges in the gig economy.
Great. Thanks a lot for this opportunity. The whole M&SOM team, Pavitra, Anant, Debjit for introducing us to this idea. And and a lot more people who have run behind it. Michelle for running the show today and managing the tech. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Pavitra. Thanks, Anand. Thanks for giving us this opportunity to present some of the key problem statement from the last one supply chain. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you all for giving this platform. Thank you.